Be here. Hope everybody's doing on Sunday, Monday, December 29th, 3:34 on this fine afternoon. Really quick rant, talk about the market, some names I'm looking at, go from the S&P down about 0.3% here, off the lows of the session, all the way down to 686 on the SPY at 12:30. Have been melting, well, not melting, but grinding higher, I guess is the term, right near the afternoon highs here right now. Uh, Not much in the way of catalyst, right? Overnight session, silver was spiking again. We thought maybe continuation of this silver and gold rally, and then reverse course, and then silver, palladium, all those different commodities are getting taken to the woodshed. But put it all in perspective, I mean, silver's up 100 and whatever, 175% or whatever it was at points overnight. So at some point, there's going to be a pull. And typically, when you have some of these names that maybe have overshot or had these rapid rises, you can have rapid falls. So to see the market kind of hold up here, and you always worry that there's going to be some rollover, right? Some spillover when you have some asset classes getting destroyed. You have to think it's just natural for some other part of someone's portfolio to have to be liquidated or modified, and then that causes a little disruption, especially in the face of low volumes. So you take a look at today's volume, compare it to Friday's volume. It's very similar, very lackluster in regards to the trading, and it's just a tad above the half session last Wednesday. So this probably continues into the start of the new year, and then maybe we'll get back to some normalcy. We get the analysts out doing their normal spin, and yeah, to me, it's almost like somewhat of a good thing to see the markets hold up despite the volatility in the commodity space. Also, you take a look at the VIX today; it was up over 10% into the 15s, and I guess at first glance you would think, wow, the fear's back, but then you just take it in the whole context of everything going on. 15 is like the historical lows, or it's lower than historical levels, and boom, we're VIX is only up 3% right now as I speak, down at 14. It's almost dipped under 14 for a second. So take everything with a grain of salt. Is this the start of some kind of bigger pull, or just a little chop before the next leg? I mean, take a look at the SPY chart. I mean, it looks kind of healthy here. Upper Bollinger Band was hit uh, Wednesday and Friday of last week, but dipped a little bit here today, and maybe 685. I put 686 as the key spot for the SPY, so hopefully that holds. If that's the case, then maybe we set up for new highs into 2026. Let's see. All right, so that's kind of overall markets. I mean, you take a look at the headlines. There's nothing, right? I mean, the commodity situation is front and center. You still have, Intel this morning. What Nvidia's buying some of their chips. I don't know all the different news stories, but nothing market moving in my opinion. So with that being said, so that's kind of the overall market. We'll see what tomorrow brings. Hopefully some action, and some of the names that, especially that I'm in, will find footing and ramp high. All right, so that's overall markets. Now, quick on individual names. Take a look at Reddit today. Tight Bollinger Band setup, finally starting to move here. And relative to how Reddit normally moves, it's a slow, meticulous move to the upside. Knock on wood here. Hopefully there's no pull. But since 10 o'clock, it started 226, and it's been up and to the right. So a good thing here, right at that 235 handle at a week and a half highs. Upper Bollinger Band 240. Would love to see it break through that tomorrow, Wednesday, and then off to the races. I mean, I would love to see it happen tomorrow. I don't think it'll take much, right? And the spark, well, I think if there's any kind of news, it's up 15% in a flash. But maybe the spark would be, I mean, who knows? But anyway, still have those strikes. I talked about on the watch list this morning. I'm not going to add any more for this week. If I do get some strikes, they'll be into next week, or further out. I'll continue to play it for upside. To me, I'm surprised it's still under $300 before 2026 ends. Still have some time, right? Hey, you never know what happens in the next 2 days. All right, so that's Reddit. Not doing much there. My calls are back to life. And then today, so I talked about it on the watch list this morning. It's a name I've kind of watched on and off for the last month or so. I don't even know if I've had it on the watch list, but COCO, coconut water, right? Vita Coca, however you now pronounce it. It's not the most sexy name, but there's names over the years that I've traded that weren't that sexy before I got in and made some nice moves, right? New moves typically that are not priced in by the market. And when you have a situation like that, there's opportunity to make some nice gains on the call side. So I was looking for strikes on COCO. I talked about this. The only issue with the strikes, well, besides them only being $5 increments, they're only monthly. So because of that, it's sometimes tough to find a decent risk reward on the call side. And Wow, those 60 strikes just green, just got some nice premium. Anyway, so I was trying to get some this morning. First, I had a 30, got some at 30, got some at 35, and then it was just chopping around. There was 54, and then later in the afternoon, it just started to take off. 54.50, 54.80, and it's right near the highs, and the premiums are creeping into calls. And earlier this morning, no calls, and now there's nearly 700 calls traded, 10 puts. I posted that little chart just from their, I think it's from their earnings. But again, I think it's a great story, right? And to me, I love names that number one are, I wouldn't say underappreciated, but not a name that you hear much about, right? Uh, Growth name in a niche market that is uh, changing, right? Some of the reason why COCO came to my attention is because of the shift in consumer habits in regards to health, right? The protein side of things, people with fitness, and then the other side, people look for alternatives to alcohol, right? So just great story. Looking at growth, 37% year-over-year growth in their last quarter. I think it's 25% growth for the year. $200 million in cash, no debt, active stock buyback program. One of the other components that I think is attractive, their international growth, which is kind of like the next possible path to I don't know, I'm not sure exactly the addressable market there, but an opportunity for them to continue to grow. So I'm not saying this is a name that's one of those momentum high beta names that's just going to go bonkers, but I do think there's an opportunity for upside. So funny on a rant this morning, I was saying this is not going to be one of my top 5 stocks for 2026. But then the more I looked, and one of the criteria I have out for being a top 5 stock is that it has to have the possibility of going at least 35% or increasing 35% for the year. I started looking at the math, running some of the numbers. You compare it to, I would say it's apples to apples comparison, but Celsius, similar kind of profile, and Celsius trades 7, 8 times revenues, where COCO is only 5 times revenue, 5 or 6 times revenue. So there's opportunity there. And then where COCO has no debt, Celsius has some debt. And I don't know if it's some of it's because they're M&A, but it's not my only reason to be bullish in it, but that to me means there's opportunity. So I think it's up 45% in 2025. I don't think it's a far cry for it to close up 35% in 2026. That puts it around 74 bucks. Short term, I think it trades over 60 bucks. So I was looking at possibly add some more strikes, but then you start rolling out into February's, and the February 65s are 30 by 70. Not sure if that's the type of strike I'll go out and grab just yet, but if there's continuation tomorrow, all-time highs, I think, is 55.42, somewhere in there. It just hit recently. So anyway, great name. Like the story. Hopefully continuation tomorrow, and blue sky breakout, off to the races. So that's COCO. And then some other names. I mean, Sweet Green, Solar Edge taking on the chin here this morning and this afternoon. Still going to hold those strikes. My bull case on those names don't change. Solar Edge, just a matter of time before that one takes off. Issues, right? I wouldn't say issues, but with the solar sector, now you have the rumblings because a lot of the components from solar are made with silver, right? And that's some of the bull case in silver is there's a lot of utility value to silver because it's not like gold. I mean, gold has utility value too, but silver has a lot more use cases for it. And unfortunately, solar that's one of the piece of the components. Some require silver, or some of them do. Doesn't really run too much in the solar edge, but hopefully that sometimes when you do have weakness in a sector based on a story like that, it could roll into solar edge, even though it doesn't quite impact their business. But still like that one. And then other names I'm watching, I put as a point of reference this morning, Oracle. So Oracle all the way down to 193 at the open. And then it's like someone hit a button. And then boom, 193 to 197 in a matter of 10, 15 minutes. Actually, all the way up to 198. And I put the 210s as a interesting possible entry. I think it was 210s. Did I put the 210s? Yeah. Yeah, 51. They were 51 by 53 with the stock of 197.92. And then it drops down to 195, and then those are cut in half. So then I was looking at the 205s, and the 205s were 51 by 53. Let's see what those are right now. Yep, the 205s are 44 by 46. So my point is, even though the stock has moved, the opportunities are try to trade just to trade because I'm sitting here staring at a screen to try to, I wouldn't say milk the cow on Oracle, but at least try to find some positions to make some money on Oracle. Just it's fruitless, right? Not only that, you lose money despite the swings. So another one of those instances where just happy to sit on my hands and not try to force things. But I continue to look for opportunities to trade Oracle for upside. Same with Broadcom. That was all the way up to what it hit 348 this morning, all the way up to 350, and I'm like, oh, this is ready to break out. Sat on my hands, then all the way back down to 348, and then what's it do after 12:30? It gets back up to 350, and right now it's dipping. So uh, frustrating, but it's even more frustrating if I try to chase some of these names. So I'll continue to be patient. Um, Trying to think of some of the other names I'm watching here today. Serve Robotics looked great at the open. It was all the way up to 1020. Then it dipped back down to into the nines again, and it's kind of flatlining. So, well, it's flatlining now, down 3%, but 3% it's down 31 cents. Nothing crazy there. So I'll just continue to hold strikes there. At some point, I'll add some of the March strikes. And I talked about those March 15s and 16s on the watch list this morning, and I was talking on the rant, and then you start looking today, and those are down. Let's see. The March 15s are 50 by 55, so they're down 20%. So maybe I'll wait till tomorrow or for Wednesday. We'll see. I'm no reason to rush in on those. Still holding the rest of my calls there. And then into 2026, there's names and I'm still doing my webinar. So as I'm watching the market, it's kind of in a good way, not a good way, but there's things I got to be doing. I'm always doing due diligence research, but now I'm doing it on my webinar, so it gives me time to look at some of those some names in 2026. But there's names as you pull up scans and Dexcom, right? Sometimes when that one comes up, I cringe a little bit because it's been a bumpy last couple of years, but that one looks interesting. So I don't know if I'm going to add some calls here into the end of the year, but that's a name that's been beaten up and maybe it continues to get beaten up. But one of these times, and there was a nice little article back in was it the summer? When I was looking for calls into earnings, and I think I got the calls, and then I sold them before earnings, and then it got pummeled. But that for some reason it calls my name. So at some point, maybe I'll look to get some strikes there. And that's it. Hopefully, if Reddit can just get to 240 by tomorrow, and then I can lock some of the 250s in, cover costs, ride the rest, and then add some strikes for the higher move. That would be ideal scenario. Roku, still watching Roku here at some point. You got to think that one's gonna finally break out. I think it had its 52-week closing high, but it just sitting here doing nothing, right? Netflix. I don't know if I talked about Netflix last week. I would love to get calls on Netflix. I almost think that if they nix this Warner Brothers deal, it's going to take off. I don't think that's going to happen. So I'll probably sit on my hands there. I'm not a big fan of companies that do M&A. Not all the time, but to me, it's like when you invest in a company, you're buying the company for what they have. You're not buying the company so that they can invest in something else. At least that was my my opinion. I remember I think it was I used this example. It's like FCX Freeport McMoran. They bought like a gold mine one time. This is years ago, and I remember like you're buying FCX or no oil field. I think they got into oil and gas. I'm like you're not buying FCX to get into oil and gas, right? And then it's like AMC did the same thing. I forget what they got. I think they're the one who got the gold mine. Uh, anyway, all right. Have a great afternoon, folks. Hopefully better opportunities tomorrow. And I put this on a watch list too. Sometimes it's a good trade is not making a trade, right? Not forcing a position just to have skin in the game on a move that you're hoping happens, right? I trying to look for some setups here. It's just can be frustrating. But anyway, I think that's it. Have a great afternoon. Rock and roll.